entire thing about Egyptian foreign policy in the last decade. However, that's one of the toughest questions ever. Why? Because when we want how Egypt has been pursuing her foreign policy, I think that's pretty challenging. Why? Because Egypt, since day one, if we actually take it from a different perspective a little bit, we say that Egypt should have focused primarily on its internal affairs, because Egypt has been facing different challenges internally. However, when we look at our foreign policy, we find, as you said, we have been directly involved in everything in the region. And that, in my mind, that is pretty challenging. How come you're focusing on your internal affairs and so many challenges internally, domestically, namely when it comes to counter-terrorism initiative and different measures being taken till today, by the way, till today, against a monster thing called terrorism. And for example, talking about, getting everything about, the economic situation solved, which is a very actually challenging thing. It still is very challenging.
Yes.
I'd like actually to draw the attention of the viewers that concerning everything domestically, and we're still very much concerned with international affairs and regional affairs.
That's Egypt's fate, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the fate of the biggest country in the region. Throughout the course of history, it seems to be the destiny of Egypt to be responsible, not just for itself, but for those around.
But some people, honestly, downplay this. Foreign policy. You mentioned a couple of examples. If we want to dig deep in each one of those, I think that may take hours. For example, Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Libya. These 4 examples, I believe, actually are very, very extensive when it comes to what Egypt has done in these different areas. And if you may, for example, when it comes to Libya, I think, Libya, if not Egypt being directly involved, and I'm talking about not directly in terms of military, diplomatically involved, directly and indirectly in Libya, we would have seen Libya now in a very different situation. Being playing an active role in getting the decisions. And by the way,
and it's trying to do the same now in Sudan.
Exactly. Anthropologically, when it comes to, we were talking anthropologically and racially speaking, when it comes to Libya, we have so many factions in Libya. And especially when it comes to the geographical areas, whether we're talking about eastern areas, western areas, exactly. And the tribes are so different, so different. If you want to get everyone together in Libya, that is one of the toughest challenging at the same time. We played a very active part in Sudan leading up to the revolution. I'm not talking about the situation now, I'm talking about the situation or the conditions leading up to what happened and the revolution in Sudan. Afterwards, to today, situation is so intense in Sudan, and we are playing
Egypt is ready to host the parties.
Exactly, we've been doing this Syria the same way in the report.
It's a non-stop effort.
Exactly.
I mean, and yeah, so you agree that there is no place in the region where there is a conflict where you will not find Egypt.
Exactly, we're everywhere.
A wise voice, a voice calling for calm, for dialogue, for peace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These, and by the way, those are not just mere words, because when talking to someone, that person might say, wow, you talk about peace, stability, security. These words are very difficult to achieve. Achieving these goals are measures, going there, getting to such things, by the way, it's very challenging, especially the word security, how to do this. By the way, one of the most important goals to Egyptian authority and presidency is that to secure that kind of situation that would have some sort of stability in the region, because that has to do with so many other things. Syria, and the situation of Syria, it's been like what, since 2011?
Right.
In Syria, and we've been exerting extensive efforts to get everyone together. I still recall talking about, former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Sameh Shukri, I think it was March last year, when actually the earthquake hit the area there, we're talking about Turkey and Syria. He went there personally, and he met with, President Syria, Assad, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs as well. He visited Turkey, and of course, we need to talk about Turkey. That's a
that's a big file. And,
exactly.
But before we talk about Turkey or the wider region, I want to stay with the Arab causes. So, of course, Egypt does that out of responsibility. It is again the biggest country with the biggest weight in the region, and because also the national interests of Egypt dictate that there would be stability around it.
Yeah, definitely. It goes both ways, as you're saying.
Right.
On the one hand, we talk about the Arab world, our brothers everywhere, the brethren everywhere across the Arab world and Islamic world as well. On the other hand, it's about our national security, which is very, very important. We have learned that lesson long time ago. Without the security in the region, we can make it in Egypt. That's why, that's why I started off my discussion, talking about, we're doing things parallelly, together. We're not saying that, we're going to do this thing together, and then after we get done with this, we move on to some. No, we believe first day, and I think the leadership, Egyptian leadership, they strongly believe in this, that we need actually to tackle all files together at the same time. We know, once again, it is challenging, pretty challenging. However, we have to. In other words, we believe it is a must. We have no other solution rather than facing or tackling everything at the same time. We know for sure that time is not on our side. Once again, time is not on our side. Domestically, internally, and regionally and internationally. We are facing numerous number of challenges. At the same time, we believe at the same time that we can tackle all of these challenges. I know that some people don't believe in this. How come you'd be able, or actually Egypt would be able to tackle all of this? We believe that we can do this, and we have to do this at the same time.
So Egyptian diplomats have been very busy. They never took a breather, and they work on all of the files simultaneously. And Egypt is always there in the middle. Now, if we talk about the Gaza problem, the Palestinian problem, Egypt now, of course, is playing a big role in trying to reach an end, an immediate ceasefire, and to aid the suffering of the Palestinians. All right. First, then Al-Isha, the call for prayer. Dr. Momtaz, followers, will listen to then Al-Isha, the call for the prayer, and then come back and continue. Welcome back, dear viewers. That was the call for Al-Isha. We're still here in the daily debate with Dr. Milad Momtaz, the international relations expert, talking about Egypt's foreign policy, the consistency of Egypt's foreign policy, the balance, the wisdom. I mean, if you look, you mentioned Turkey earlier. I mean, and I want to mention also when it came to the conflict a few years ago and until today, but we have problems with Turkey, but yet when Turkey stance, we receive them, as friends, and it happened with also other. So Egypt always has this rationality, this. I don't know, it's confidence, it's self-esteem.
Yeah, I believe it's all about envisioning the future. I think we have a clear vision of the region. We have a clear vision of the future of the region. And that's actually brings on other issues. As you mentioned, for example, what happened with Turkey last 10 years, lost 11 years. I think that's a case to be taught about diplomacy and how to play diplomacy, how to lead that kind of thing, when you have that kind of strained relationship with another country, what to do about it? Okay, how would you lead that kind of thing? I think that is a case study or a role model in that thing. And I think when it comes to Turkey, we actually did it very professionally. Very professionally, okay? And if we actually look back at actually our relations with Turkey, first off, it was so tense, okay? And media actually, the rifts in media and the clashes and whatsoever. And actually, the presidency or the leadership, Egyptian leadership, they actually thought of this in a very different way. They believed that one day Turkey would, how we border and direct relations with Egypt, okay, are. Relations with Egypt, okay, were very important to Turkey. Finally, after a couple of years, I think 7, 8 years, I'm talking about, okay, 1913 to
2013, you mean?
2013, let's say, okay, let's say 2019, 2020, and we've been seeing different signs back and forth about the situation, okay, between Turkey and Egypt, that they would actually...
It is to mention that the economic ties never broke down, and
that's another
they were at a
issue.
high level all the time.
Okay, and that's a very important point. Why? Okay, no matter the differences, how difficult the differences are, okay, but when it comes to economic relations, no, that's a totally different thing. That's a totally different area. Why? Because that has to do with people themselves. No, we need actually not to go close to this. That's a different case. But Turkey nowadays, actually, it's totally different, and they've been trying actually to draw near, actually, and the reconciliation initiatives, okay, to Egypt. I think it's been very evident, and I think we're actually heading in the direct direction when it comes to having strong relations once again with Turkey, not only economically, I'm talking about politically. And by the way, politically speaking, nowadays our relations with Turkey are very crucial. Why? Because of the situation in the region,
the Gaza problem,
exactly, and because of the situation in Europe when it comes to, okay, the Russian-Ukrainian war. So it's when we actually build such strong bridges with Turkey in a professional way. I know it took time, years. However, actually we were talking about, okay, the end, the final result.
A case that must be studied, as you mentioned, Dr. Momtaz. I want to go back to the Palestinian problem, because it is the Gaza problem. It is in the minds and hearts of every Egyptian, every Arab, the whole world now, really. I mean, even in the West now we are seeing support for the just cause. Egypt is doing its utmost to try and reach an end to this. Exchange of hostages, ceasefire, open the border crossings, get humanitarian aid in, but there is stubbornness on the part of the Israeli side, but there is patience from the part of the Egyptian side and persistence. So do you see any near breakthrough? Are we going to see any breakthrough anytime soon? Because over the past few months, every time we feel there is a breakthrough, there's going to be a breakthrough, even from the U.S. pressure, as a result of the U.S. pressure, the Israeli side backtracks.
I think that's one of the toughest diplomatic challenges ever in history. I'm not actually exaggerating, but we are talking about, okay, Israel, and that's a very tough, party. Israel is not that simple. When it comes to doing diplomacy, it's one of the toughest. If we're actually sitting at a table with actually Israeli diplomats, it's not that simple. Okay, so we need actually to figure out how to play that game. And actually, let me refer to...
Especially the Israel of Netanyahu. Because,
exactly, his cabinet, the government. Okay, because actually they're persistent. Bloodshed is not a big deal to them, which actually we take it as one of our most important priorities in Egypt. It's not a big
bloodshed,
deal. Exactly, I'm talking about that killing people in Tel Aviv, it's not a big deal to them. Okay, however, to us, no, that's one of the most important priorities, bloodshed. Okay, the word consistency, we've never changed our policy towards the Palestinian cause. We've never done that. We've never done it throughout history, not only since October 7th. We've never done it. We insist on actually helping out our brother in Gaza. We're not talking about mere words. Once again, we're talking about actions. On the ground, there are actually actions being taken by Egypt. And let me put it in a different way. Hadn't we done it this way, if Egypt actually, had done it or played that kind of formula different way, we would have seen the situation or the cause itself being emptied. Since this has been trying to empty the whole thing, to get it done, to finish off with the entire thing. Okay, how? Okay, for example, like they called it, optional, displacement, people who would like to immigrate or actually leave the place, these are all lies. They want to get rid of everyone. Let me share with you something. I'm sure that you've read it. I think it was yesterday or even, today. One of the ministers of the Israeli cabinet said that, okay, now we should Sinai once again. And said, well, what? Are we back, once again to this? Are we still talking about this? So you're still thinking?
Yeah, the crazy voices, really. But you get a sense that Netanyahu's government down in Gaza, they will hit South Lebanon. I mean, you get the sense that they want to stay at war forever. Yeah, that's the sense that we're getting. But again, or at least I hope that voice of wisdom and voice of will prevail in the end.
I believe that Tel Aviv should listen or must listen, let me put it grammatically speaking. They must listen to that kind of rational voice about, if you want to live, learn how to live together. And we should use the term coexistence. If you get what it means, the word coexistence is.
Right. Had lost a lot in Africa before the 2011 revolution and 2013 revolution. Succeeded in getting Egypt back to playing a leading role in Africa. Talk to us about that specific file.
I believe, we've done a great job in that area, Africa. And let me refer back to, once again, to Mr. Sameh Shukri and his team. We've been rooming Africa. One of the most important is the economic tie with some African countries. We know how challenging. By the way, okay, to who believe that, okay, that Africa is very simple to have economic relations, by the way, it's very challenging. Why? We have geographical challenges. Because, by the way, Africa is not that simple. If you want to actually, for example, bridges, I'm talking about actual bridges, it's very difficult. If you want to actually build roads, very difficult. Still, we believe that, okay, it's very important to do this. Okay, and we have been doing, as I said, a great job. And another example, which I believe is so evident about building the dam, I think in Tanzania, the Tanzanian dam, it's a huge dam. 2 or 3 Egyptian companies have made it. They built that huge dam, A to Z, and we were directly responsible for this. And in of talking about, okay, that, okay, Africans should do this themselves. No, we play direct role in this, helping out those people. And actually, we secured them, like electricity day and night, there in that region or that area. On the other hand, we have been playing like, an active part in the agriculture projects in some African countries. First off, it was experimental farms. Now we are moving from experimental farms into actual ones. Because that, of course, Africa, we have so many areas in Africa. When it comes to soil and how fertile soil is, it's the best, maybe the best in the entire world. And Egypt has been thinking of this, taking the whole thing into Africa, helping them out with our expertise.
Especially when it comes to we have a lot of doctors and a lot of the pharmaceutical sector is very important especially when Egypt is the origin, Egypt the gate to and from Africa. Mr. Momtaz, the viewers allow us to watch another report. It is about the Egyptian-African relations and their development in the past few years, amongst other achievements that have been done in the file of foreign diplomacy here in Egypt.
The Egyptian affiliation to the African continent comes on top of the Egyptian foreign policy. It also constitutes one of the main milestones in the history of Egypt, where since President El-Sisi assumed office, Egypt has aimed to play an active role in various mechanisms of joint African action through stimulating cooperation between Egypt and African brothers in all fields. The matter which was shown by paying many visits and welcoming the Africans officials in Egypt. However, such visits witnessed the signing of many bilateral agreements between Egypt and African countries in order to support economic cooperation. The relations between Egypt and its partners in Asia witnessed great momentum on the exchange of interests. The Asian Circle came at the concentration of President el-Sisi's attention, where new relations were built with Asian countries that were not visited by any Egyptian president, in addition to the return of suspended visits to major Asian countries. This fact was embodied in the Asian tours paid by President el-Sisi and his official visits to Singapore, China, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Japan, South Korea and Vietnam. These visits, however, aim to benefit from the experiences and expertise of these countries in the areas of investment, education, industry, development of Egyptian economy and attraction of investments. They resulted in the signing of several agreements and memoranda of understanding in these areas. The Egyptian-European relations witnessed strong momentum at the bilateral level through President el-Sisi's to Germany, Italy, Britain, France, Russia, Hungary, Portugal, or at the multilateral level, including the mechanism of tripartite cooperation with Greece and Cyprus, or the development of relations up to the level of partnership with the countries of Visegrad through Egypt's first participation in the Visegrad Group Summit. The Egyptian-American relations witnessed significant development. Egyptian-American cooperation represents an important part in the strategy of cooperation in issues and files, especially with regard to the most important file in the region, namely the international terrorism, terrorist organizations and extremist ideas that have been developed in the conflicts. Egypt enjoys a comprehensive vision in dealing with these related phenomena, which is based on dealing with a comprehensive policy, launching a military, security, cultural and development confrontation, drying up the sources of terrorism, taking deterrent actions against countries that support and finance terrorism.
Thank you, Manal El-Ebiari, again for this report, and thanks to Rania Abdessalam, our editor-in-chief, our producer. And as we saw in the report, Mr. Momtaz, Dr. Momtaz, it was discussed not only the Africa-Egypt relations, but Egypt's relations with Asia, with Europe, with basically with the entire world, and how Egypt is friends to everybody, really.
Actually, that's correct. I'd like to refer to, European-Egyptian relations, and we've seen, last couple of days, I think it was Saturday and Sunday.
29th and 30th of June, right?
The conference, it was a huge success to me. Okay, everyone who followed this conference would see very clearly that how successful it was, and especially when it comes to diplomacy. It wasn't only about, I know it's the word investment, okay, is involved in the title of the conference.
$49 billion of deals and memorandums of
exactly. However,
which is very important.
It's huge. When we dig deep about under the title itself, we'd find that it's all about diplomacy. We've been building a huge network with European nations, resulting in that kind of conference. We wouldn't have been able to have that kind of conference without actually, active diplomacy. We've been directly involved with European countries, and European countries wouldn't have been able to believe in us unless we have, active diplomacy. By the way, European nations, they don't trust countries that easily, okay, especially when it comes to money. Okay, by the way, initially it was, I think, 7.4 billion euros. But the deals that were actually signed at the conference, okay, it was like, as you said,
49
more
billion.
than, yeah, we're talking about, okay, huge amount of money. And by the way, okay, that amount of money is only about the EU-sponsored companies. Non-EU companies, I think it was like another huge number, it's 18.4 billion. So if we look at the entire situation and the direct result of that conference, I believe, once again, it's a huge success to our actually diplomacy.
Dr. Momtaz, again about the rationality, the consistency, the balance. Egypt has not shifted east or west, north or south. It keeps a very healthy relationship with the sole power in the world right now, because we are a unipolar world. It's no more the USA, Soviet Union world. It's the US, the main power, but you have superpowers like China, like Russia. So Egypt, and it's for you to say, but many believe that Egypt holds a healthy relationship with all big powers in the world: US, EU, China, Russia.
Yeah, I believe that's very challenging.
Balance.
Yeah, by the way, okay, the word itself seems to be simple. You know, the word balance. If you want to keep that kind of balance, by the way, it's very difficult. Why? If you want to go east to China, you know, China has a totally different
agenda,
personality. You go west, you'd find, as we were talking about Europe, and we go, okay, west as well, and we find US for America. And these are very different. And we go northward, you would find Russia. Southward, you would find Africa. We were talking about Africa. You know, how would you be able to manage these different features? By the way, it is very challenging. Once again, among all of this, and you believe that, okay, we actually going to play it in. But how to do this? You need to have a clear vision. Once again, as I said earlier, you know, that vision is based on facts, based on info, and that's what the fifth generation we're talking about. Okay, that's the fifth generation war. We need to be very much aware of what's going on in the world, eastwardly, westwardly, everywhere in the world, and then based on info, we'd be able actually to take decisions. And that's what I see in the last 10 years. We are very much affirmative about this, about the information. We go to China, by the way, we have very strong with China, okay, and we are building, and if we look at, for example, that huge alliance, okay, and on the other hand, we look back, and we were talking about, okay, the EU. And then how come, maybe someone would say that, okay, how come you would do this with the EU, and at the same time you are an active member in the BRICS? Okay, doesn't it, is it challenging, you know, is it conflicting? And we would say no, because we know where we're doing. We know how to do the BRICS, we know how to actually play the game with the EU, and we know how to play the game with America, which is a very actually big thing at the same time. I think consistency and rationality, these are not just mere words, and once again, as I said, Egypt, diplomacy, I think should be studied.
Indeed. And a final word before we go, Dr. Momtaz, the challenges. As the main challenges nowadays for the Egyptian diplomacy. But we've learned throughout the years that no matter what the challenge is, Egypt's foreign policy is always up to it. But I want to know from you, what do you see are the biggest challenges at the moment?
The biggest challenges at the moment is how to keep the balance. Okay, you know, we have our own internal issues, you know, the challenges that we've been having. At the same time, you know, okay, internationally speaking, the world is becoming very unstable, unfortunately. And we've been actually seeing, you know, the echoes of war everywhere across the world, and the waves of war and challenges. Very fast pace. The pace is very fast. You actually mentioned, for example, Hezbollah and Lebanon and what's going on in Gaza, and actually, it's, you know, it's coming, you know, like the pace itself is so fast, unfortunately. So, in my mind, how to build a strong diplomacy that would actually assure you would actually have a strong national security, you would have, you know, the threats, because we are surrounded by so many threats. how to make sure that, okay, you have the latest, the most sophisticated military action measures, and that's very important, okay, because, for example, we getting the latest weapons, for example, some European countries, like we have the latest from some Eastern countries, and we have, that kind of diversified sources of weaponry, which is very important. So I think the cornerstone of our challenges is how to make sure that you protect your national security.
All right. On that note, dear viewers, on behalf of you, we thank very much our distinguished with us here in this the international relations expert, Dr. Milad Momtaz. Dr. Momtaz, it's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, dear viewers, for watching the Daily Debate. I'm Mohammed Abdelrahim, and I thank you for watching, and please stay with Nile TV International.